All right, hello MUCT 105L students. This is your midweek lecture for week 9 of the fall quarter. Okay, a couple of things that we're going to start with. Let's start with the warm-up. Okay, let's do kind of like what we did in last Friday's class. And I'll give you the order that we'll sing them in and see if you can figure it out. So let's sing them in the following order. Melodic minor, harmonic minor, natural minor, major. Again, melodic minor, harmonic minor, natural minor, major. Okay, let's give it a try on do. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, te, le, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, le, ti, do, ti, le, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, le, te, do, te, le, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. All right? So go back and do those again if you need to, if you didn't remember which one was which. We'll do that from time to time when we're warming up. Take them at relatively random order so that we can, as quickly as possible, slide into the syllables and the sound of each new one as it comes. Not learning it in one particular order, but in any order. All right, let's go to the Berkowitz book and do a little bit of sight singing. Starting, please, with page 21. Go to the Berkowitz book, page 21. All right. Number 80 at the top of page 21 in the key of C major. Okay, notice we have some leaps. But these leaps are all based on notes of the tonic triad. Do, sol, mi, do, all of those notes. Okay, this is in piano, this is in compound meter. I will give you 2 measures and a good moderate compound 6/8 here. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and do, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, mi, fa, sol, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, ti, do. All right, make sure you get all the way to the end there. And this was a question that was brought up also, that in 6/8 time, a dotted half note will fill the entire measure. Okay, it will fill the entire measure, so the equivalent to kind of what a whole note does in 4/4 time. Let's go to number 81. As you can see in number 81, we've got a number of arpeggios. We've got the short chord and the full chord. That's our keys. We have just do, mi, sol, and then do, mi, sol, do later. Okay, so that's a pattern that you can recognize. 1 and 2 and do, mi, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, mi, sol, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Okay, so you can see in the second half, the last 4 measures of that example, it was nothing but an arpeggio and a scale down. Okay, so recognizing, as I just mentioned, recognizing patterns like that make sight singing a lot easier. because they are ultimately based only of scalar motion, arpeggios, and the little melodic gestures that we've talked about. 99% of music is based on a relatively small number of melodic and harmonic gestures. All right, let's do number 82, animato. This one's a bit longer. Okay, it continues with the theme of jumping around with the tonic triad. In this case, if you look at the first and second, even to the third measure, they're kind of jumping around a little bit more. So the chords are broken significantly more, but if you know do, mi, and sol, you can always get it. All right, let's try this. Key of E flat major. All right, beginning on do. 1 and 2 and do, mi, re, do, mi, sol, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, do, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Good, good. And in the second line, the second measure and the fourth measure of the second line, you'll notice, are the same. La, sol, fa, mi, then something, and then repeated. La, sol, fa, mi, and then something else. Again, so a repetition like that can kind of push the action forward a little, as long as it's not a strict repetition, as long as the second half of it goes somewhere. Okay, we'll do one more in the Berkowitz book, number 83, Con Spirito. And I want to introduce a rhythmic concept. It's actually one we've already introduced in the concept of simple meter. And that is here dealing with the dotted rhythms, dotted 8/16 rhythms in 6/8 time. But let's just review briefly. Pen is not working well. Let's see. That's better. Okay, we've seen this before in simple meter. So in order to perform this properly, we are required, it is advisable to subdivide. And to subdivide at the level of the smallest division of the beat, which is the double subdivision or the 16th note in the case of 2/4. So if we're thinking 1E and 2E and 1E and 2, we can't go wrong. We'll go T, 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 etc. Okay. If we don't, if we subdivide only at the first level of subdivision or not at all, we might be right, T, 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 or we might be T, 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 and the subdivision will not help us. Our counting will not help us because it's not subdivided at this lowest level. I swung these. T, 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 I went 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, in 6/8 time, that might be appropriate. This is what it would be like. T, 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 but the dotted 8th rhythms, it doesn't work. Okay, but the dotted 8/16 rhythm works exactly the same way in 6/8 as it does in 2/4, except the beat is divided into a different number of beats in the subdivision. So we have something like this, which we're used to seeing in 6/8 time. Okay, just one measure's worth of stuff in the standard first level subdivision, but we can dot that 8th and beam that 16th. Okay? And we don't have to do it there, we can do it at the second half of the beat. But regardless of where in the beat we do it, you still must subdivide at the level of the smallest division of the beat, which is the 16th note, the double subdivision. Again, 1 E and 2 E and just going 1 and 2 and is not enough, okay? Because we might swing this rhythm and we would never know if we were doing it. So if we're going 1 E and 2 E and we'll get T, 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 T. Okay, see, by subdividing, we can be assured that this will be accurate. Okay, with that in mind, let's go ahead and work with number 83. So do this while singing. We'll do it nice and slow. We're in the key of A major. Do is our first note. I'll give you one subdivided measure. 1 and 2 E and do, re, mi, do, re, mi, fa, sol, mi, fa, mi, re, do, ti, la, sol, do, ti, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, sol, mi, re, do, re, mi, re, do, sol, la, ti, do, mi, re, do. Good, so you can see how subdividing really helps you. And we'll continue when we go back into in the Kazez book, when we get back into compound meter. We're almost done with chapter 2, and we're actually, this is a good place for us to switch over to the Kazez book, so go ahead and get the Kazez book out. But when we do switch over, our next chapter that we'll deal with at the beginning of next quarter will be simple meter again, and then chapter 4, which we'll deal with at the second half of next quarter, we'll be back into compound, and it'll be dealing with more complex things, more dotted rhythms, more things like that. But let's go to the Kazez book, please, and go to page 38. Page 38, near the end of chapter 2 in compound. Okay, there's a couple things that I want to try here. I've actually never tried this on one of the midweek lecture videos before, but I, on page 38, would like to try number 58 with you. Now you may wonder, how are we going to do this? It's a two-parter. I'm going to do one part and you're going to do the other. Okay, I'm going to do the top part and then you'll do the bottom, then I'll do the bottom part and then you'll do the top. And so you have a chance to practice these ensemble exercises, and I will do my very best, of course, to make sure that my part is very clean and clear and consistent. But first thing, let's deal with a new symbol here. So you can see on page 38, you have what looks like a percentage sign. Looks a little like the percentage symbol. And it does explain to you what it means, but it's just it's a little like a ditto mark. Okay, so if you have a bunch of numbers, say you're listing numbers 20, 17, 15, and you want a bunch of 15s, you just continue the dittos, meaning it's the same thing, repeating the previous one. Again, it's the same thing, except horizontally. If you have this rhythm, and you want to repeat that rhythm again without having to go through all the terrible trouble of writing those notes again, you just do that. And that means just reproduce exactly that previous measure. Okay? And you can have these in a row. That means do it again. It means do it again. Okay. The potential difficulty with that is you have to be sure, you have to be absolutely sure that you remember what the original was so that you can repeat it correctly. In the case of number 58, in the bottom part, in the second line there, you can see there are two of those, and it is repeating just eighth notes. T, 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 T. Okay? And in the third line in the top part, it's doing the same thing. It's repeating a string of undifferentiated eighth notes. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I am going to T the top part. Okay? And at the same time, you should be T'ing the bottom part. Okay? And then after we do that, we'll reset. I'll T the bottom part while you do the top part. So between you and me on YouTube, we should be doing this together. All right, let's try it. So I'm going to start with the top one. Start with the top one, you hit the bottom one. Here is our tempo and subdivision. Beware of the 9/8 bar kind of dead in the middle of this. Okay, it's a rest in the middle, but just make sure you don't miss it. Okay, 1 and 2 and 1 E and 2 and T T T T T T T T T ticky T ticky T ticky ticky T T T T ticky 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 T ticky 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 T ticky T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T ticky T T T T ticky T ticky T off. All right, and now I'm going to do the bottom part and you guys are going to do the top part. Okay, so switch over. Let's do it. 1 and 2 and T T T T T T ticky T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T ticky 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 T ticky 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 T ticky T T ticky T T T T ticky T ticky T T T T off. All right, hopefully that was successful. We'll find out on Friday, probably Friday or perhaps the next week we'll do some of these two-part exercises together. Okay, but make very, very sure. Okay, I talk about the magic word as it relates to rhythm many times. You know, when I ask you the magic word beginning with S, and you of course will say subdivision. Make sure that in your head you are subdividing 1 E and 2 E and or in simple meter 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and or whatever the smallest level of subdivision happens to be. It's vitally important. It's vitally important that you subdivide. Other way, there's really no good way to do accurate rhythm. Okay? Okay, that's all for this midweek lecture. We'll see you guys on Friday of week 9.